for this evening is from chapter 11, verse 1 and verses 8 through 22. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. By faith, Abraham obeyed when he was called to set out for a place that he was to receive as an inheritance. And he set out not knowing where he was going. By faith, he stayed for a time in the land he had been promised, as in a foreign land, living in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked forward to the city that has foundations, whose architect and builder is God. By faith, he received power of procreation, even though he was too old, and Sarah herself was barren, because he considered him faithful who had promised. Therefore, from one person, and this one as good as dead, descendants were born, as many as the stars of heaven, and as the innumerable grains of sand by the seashore. All of these died in faith without having received the promises, but from a distance they saw and greeted them. They confessed that they were strangers and foreigners on the earth, for people who speak in this way make it clear that they are seeking a homeland. If they had been thinking of the land that they had left behind, they would have had the opportunity to return. But as it is, they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God. Indeed, he has prepared a city for them. By faith, Abraham, when put to the test, offered up Isaac. He who had received the promises was ready to offer up his only son, of whom he had been told, "It is through Isaac that descendants shall be named for you." He considered the fact that God is able even to raise someone from the dead. And figuratively speaking, he did receive him back. By faith, Isaac invoked blessings for the future on Jacob and Esau. By faith, Jacob, when dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph, bowing in worship over the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, at the end of his life, made mention of the exodus of the Israelites and gave instructions about his burial. Here ends the reading. Each week, during our midweek Lenten services, a different member of our community is coming forward to speak about their own experience of living by faith. And for tonight, we are inviting Mary Torstveit to come forward. Mary is a newer member here in our congregation, so if, after hearing her speak tonight, if you have not met her, please take a moment to introduce yourself after. Mary?
My story tonight is certainly one of faith and grace and a miracle. I received a kidney transplant 15 months ago, and I'd like to share my story. In 1996, I was diagnosed with kidney disease. In fact, at that time they said it was end-stage renal failure. I didn't have any symptoms, as with many kidney types of kidney diseases, you don't have any symptoms. I had no clue. But they said at that time when I was diagnosed, my kidney function was already down to about 47%, as opposed to 90% or 95%. They told us that eventually I would either need a kidney transplant or be on dialysis. We lived in La Crosse, Wisconsin. In 2008, I became too ill to work, and I resigned from my job at the university. And at the time, our nephrologist said, it's really time for you guys to think about possible donors. We've given any thought to it. And several family members wanted to. My brother, Dana House, who lives here in Bloomington, really wanted to be my donor. But except for him, my children, my other siblings were disqualified either because they did not have the right blood type, I'm type O, and therefore I could only receive a kidney from a person with type O blood. So, you know, he was up here in Bloomington, and it was decision time for us. We had no family in La Crosse, and we did in Minneapolis. We had a huge house, and you know how much junk you can pile into a house in 25 years, you know. But you know, we had this garage and 14 steps to climb to get to the main level, and we had to downsize. And we asked at that time, we asked God, please help us decide. Please walk with us. And it was pretty clear who was in charge. We were not in charge. God was. And I would like to say that from that moment on till months later, our lives were in total chaos. Things happened so fast that it's only now that we look back and see every single thing was a miracle. We were just along for the ride and not doing very well. My husband says my normal mood was about 2, maybe 3% below panic. I was not, you know, I read about the Old Testament characters who did all these extraordinary things and went forth, and, you know, it doesn't say right away, did you have, you know, crying children with you? Were you sad? Were you chaos? I'm guessing there was plenty of chaos in their lives. Yes, they went forth in faith, and there was plenty in ours. We put our house up for sale before it was ready to sell, and in a terribly depressed real estate market, it sold. We came up here twice, and I wasn't really able to do a lot. I had really very limited energy, and we found what we think is the perfect home. I mean, everything was going exactly as God wanted it to.